back by popular demand.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Kevin D. Moore, environmental activist. You've certainly gained a reputation for flying the flag, for doing the right thing by the planet and the environment, and I think the last time I saw you in a formal setting, you made a very striking presentation to the New Plymouth District Council, where, if I can recall some of the edited highlights, you spoke about they might as well convert Pukakura Park to a massive racetrack and car park and have an international motel hotel, and you were saying that it's like teaching pigs to sing.
Well, yes, Brian, the background to that was that I'd already had a hearing on drag racing, and basically I had made it very, very clear to a number of people that I needed at least 1 hour to present a decent case on this, because there's a lot of background stuff that has to be gone through, and basically I was silenced after 8 minutes. They did not want to know, and this of course was the hearings committee that was headed by Alex Matheson.
So you thought that the chairing of that was a bit heavy?
Oh, heavy-handed to say the least. I mean, this is what we call constructed ignorance, where if there's information you don't want to know, you shut down the debate. So, I pointed out to the council basically that they are in breach of the Local Government Act. So then, of course, I went back on that occasion, on the council meeting, the policy committee meeting, and pointed out that they were in breach of the Act, and said, well, if the council is going to behave in this manner, totally disregard the Local Government Act, just do everything in case of, essentially short-term thinking, let's make as much money as we can, forget about the future, forget about what's good for our children and grandchildren, we might as well convert Pukakura Park into a racetrack.
So there was deliberate irony and sarcasm there?
Oh, totally, yes. I mean, it was totally sarcastic, but of course, you see, Elaine Gill would not allow me to complete the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Moore, you've had your 5 minutes, so I had to cut it short. And the quotation was, never try to teach a pig to sing, it wastes your time and it annoys the pig.
But you certainly have had some media coverage, quite a few articles in the Taranaki Daily News, a nice feature article in Live magazine about permaculture and what makes you tick.
In fact, yes, Irena Brooks did an excellent job on the permaculture aspect in that article, and if anybody hasn't seen it, that's the one to look for.
Yeah, it's the edition with WOMAD, and there you are.
And there's the article.
And I had an opportunity this morning to have an excursion of your home, and I must say you've done wonders with the property, and it's all very exciting. And the ultimate compliment, some of your neighbours are emulating some of your initiatives with what you're doing with your garden and your yard, Kevin.
Indeed, it's coming along. It's difficult because we need a culture change, and we need a completely different thinking. And a lot of people are locked into what's happening now, and they're thinking of today.
Kevin, I think the last time we had you on the regional TV, it was in a slightly comical setting. I think I presented you with a Americana T-shirt, and I was beseeching you not to burn the American flag, because Americana was just starting, and you thought this was grotesque and in poor taste, given the seriousness of climate change, to be celebrating American yank
culture.
Tanks.
Yes, exactly. And since then, of course, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report has been released, and they're basically saying we are into planetary meltdown. Catastrophic. I mean, these are the words that are being used. Apocalyptic. Talking about a 2-degree rise, a 4-degree rise, a 6-degree rise in temperature this century. Now, that's just numbers, but I mean, we're talking about an uninhabitable planet.
Yeah. Now, as a journalist, I saw you make 2 presentations. One was a hui with our iwi folk in regard to the government in regard to sustainability and climate change, and also there was a meeting predominantly attended by farmers and forestry people, on the sustainable land management and climate change, and you got a very good hearing with the iwi, but you were shouted down, and the farmers weren't very receptive to what you had to say.
I mean, look,
they said, we don't want to listen to this bullshit. Get rid of this guy. He's an idiot. He's a raving nutter.
These are the people that say there's no such thing as global warming. We can carry on exactly as we are. Forget about the rednecks because they know nothing. What is scary for me is the misinformation in this document. All this bullshit, I use that term, about nitrous oxide and methane, that's not the problem at all. The problem is carbon dioxide. No acknowledgement of that from the government. The problem basically is burning of fossil fuels. So it's the petrol industry, or petroleum industry, and coal. Power generation, that's the problem.
Yeah.
No acknowledgement of that. And the other thing is, sorry to interrupt you there, but the other thing is, planting trees is not the answer. It will not mitigate climate change. I'm not against planting trees. Let's plant as many trees as possible, but let's not pretend that we're going to stop climate change.
So the real enemy is reducing CO2.
Absolutely. We have got, as I said before, we've got to reduce our emissions by 90%. Virtually immediately, and 100%.
You've had a very good 2 months, because there's been a dramatic paradigm shift in the media, and now Time magazine and a lot of newspapers have a whole column and a section on sustainability and doing kind things to the environment. So your message has become a little bit more in vogue than what it was 2 months ago, but you would advocate that the mainline media are just doing cosmetic surgery, so to speak?
Cosmeticism. Well, look, this book was published in 2001, Burn Baby Burn.
Yes.
The terrifying truth about the global economy, right, the consumer society. Now, this message has been ignored for 6 years. So, OK, we're moving slightly towards doing something. But it's all cosmeticism. It's OK, well, we're going to drive hybrid cars instead of an ordinary car. Well, as I spoke to you earlier on today about that, hybrid cars are actually worse than a Hummer. And that sounds, devastating. But the embedded energy required to build a hybrid car, the nickel that's used, there's this factory in Canada which is the most polluting on the planet. You've got all this production in Canada, shifting to China to make this sponge form of nickel, shifting it to Japan to make the batteries, and then shifting them elsewhere in the world. The total energy input is greater by about 3 times than building a Hummer.
So I'm about to part with $60,000 to buy a Toyota Prius, because I'm a middle-class person who wants to feel better about the environment.
Sure.
It's a big con, you're saying.
Absolute con.
And
totally.
it's not because they're not fuel efficient, it's because of all the energy involved in manufacturing them around the world.
Absolutely. And I pointed that out in this book last year, 8 months ago. I wrote that. Lo and behold, in March of this year, article on the internet, worse than the Hummer. So
our viewers are contemplating buying a new car that's environmentally friendly based on the study you've done. What would you advocate?
There is no car that's environmentally friendly, Brian. What we have to say is
that they need
which
a car,
one
Kevin?
will do the least damage, and it's as
answer your own
small as possible manual car with the minimum weight.
And what's the one you're driving?
Well, I'm driving a Daihatsu Syrian, which is a second-hand car that I bought.
Right.
It had 11,000 on the clock when I bought it, and I paid 15,000 on the clock, and I paid 11,000 for it.
So based on the research you've done, if it's the least of evils, a car like that would be actually long-term better for the environment than buying a Prius.
Absolutely, yes.
Fortunately, the program's not sponsored by Tasman Toyota.
Well, look.
Yeah.
Daihatsu is owned by Toyota anyway.
Oh, OK.
So it's the same company.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you see, it's the cosmeticism. People think, oh, well, this thing's got lower emissions. Oh, it must be. It doesn't have lower emissions.
So when people buy carbon...
Just finish that, Brian. The engine size on a Prius is way, way, way too big. We need a hybrid with a 250 or 300cc engine. That's what we need. And these things are made to compete with V8 racing cars. So, and just one other thing, as regards to a culture change, I'm sorry, no. We have promotion of helicopter flying, helicopter rides, and helicopters are the most inefficient devices ever invented.